Let me see if she has joined. Jessica, okay. Okay, she has joined.
Okay, great.
Let's give ourselves 2 minutes.
Okay.
Hi, Jessica. Hello, Jessica.
Hello.
Can we see you, please?
Hello.
Can we see your face?
You have to give me you may not be able to see my face. My laptop camera does not connect. At the moment I'm using my phone. I have to swap to my laptop. Give me a minute. Yeah. So you probably just see my picture instead.
Okay. Good morning, our panelists. Good morning, our guests. Welcome to the Aviation Canteen Show. Today is a special edition. I call it the birthday edition. Why are we here today? You'll get to know in a few minutes. Aviation Canteen Show is where we serve it hot. And with us today, we have our friends from the ATC. When we say ATC, we mean air traffic controllers. We will be deliberating and chatting with them. Today, if you don't know what air traffic controllers do, you will get to know after our panelists give their presentation. If you have any questions, you'd kindly input it in the chat box or the Q&A, and it will be answered. If you want to speak, you raise your hands and then you will be permitted to talk. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are on the Aviation Canteen Show, powered by GH-Aviation. Hello, Jessica. Are we good to go? Air traffic control specialists are personally responsible for the safe, orderly, and expeditious flow of air traffic in the global air traffic control system. This is a mouthful, but I'm sure our guests will make us understand what I just read to you in simple terms. Hi, Jessica. So from the comment section, we have great job.
Hey, your mic is off.
Hello, Jessica, you're on mute. Hello, Jessie.
Yes, hello.
Yes, so we are good to go. You can start with your presentation.
Okay, give me 1 minute. I will have to add another device.
Okay. Okay, so as we wait for Jessica to complete her setup, let's start engaging. Hi, Zaid.
Hi.
Welcome to the show. Air traffic controller. Who is it?
Yeah.
Who is an air traffic controller?
Okay, an air traffic controller is basically an individual who provides a service to aircrafts that are in the air and those on the ground. And this service is basically to achieve safety between the aircrafts and what we call the obstruction, that is the people, the other vehicles that are also operating on the ground. And again, their service is also to ensure a safe and an expeditious flight. That is basically who an air traffic controller is. And an air traffic controller would need certain things in order to provide these services, or in order to be able to be called an air traffic controller. And what are these things? As we wait for the slides to maybe roll, I will just quickly go through that. As an air traffic controller, you have this enormous responsibility of ensuring that, be it cargo, be it persons, be it even the flight crew, they need to be safe in the air. And the statistics has shown that last year, 3.5 billion passengers have flown through the airspace or have traveled, and they have been handled by air traffic controllers. This tells us that you need highly skilled, highly knowledgeable, and then highly professional people to handle this thing. And what would you need to become an air traffic controller? You would first, after your university education, you would need to be trained again by the air navigation service provider. And we have a school here, but most Ghanaian controllers have been trained outside. And the interesting thing about the profession is that once you go through the training, if you're having 5 or 6 courses, you need to have at least a 70% in every course you take. In every program you take, you must have at least 70%. Once you are done with your training from the institution, you come back and you would have to go through an on-the-job training, which when you do not pass a rating, then you cannot even be called an air traffic controller. Aside these educational requirements, you need to be physically and then medically proven to be fit to perform this job. You must go through a very stringent medical examination before you can be handed over a license to provide this service. So before one is called an air traffic controller, you might have gone through a lot of processes to become an air traffic controller. So this is who basically an air traffic controller is. Hello, I cannot hear you.
Hello, Zaid.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can hear you now, please.
So when you were speaking, you said we have a school in Ghana for air traffic controllers. So after university, if you're not able to go outside of Ghana, there's a school in Ghana that you can train. Which school is that, please?
Exactly. Now we have the Civil Aviation Training Academy.
Okay.
For now, the training that are being organized are for foreigners. But if you have to be trained as an air traffic controller in Ghana, you first would have to be employed by the air navigation service provider, which for now is the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority. So once you go through their process of recruitment, which is also a bit stringent, you have to go through 2 or 3 aptitude tests. Then you have to go through a normal job interview before you are selected as an air traffic control assistant. Then they will take you through the basic course here, which is an ab initio course for ATC.
Okay.
So that's where the school.
So which qualifications do you need before you can be employed by the air navigation department?
You would need to have basically a university degree in the maths, sciences, or the geography fields. So once you have this one, you are good to go. And of course, you should be able to pass the aptitude tests that are conducted by the service provider.
Okay. So I have a degree in communications. Can I be employed at the air navigation department?
Well, sometimes the selection process would go and look at your SS certificate.
Okay.
There are people who may have very strong maths and science in their secondary education. And if those ones are very strong, you may be shortlisted. And if you go through the aptitude test, you may be considered.
Oh.
But communications, if it is just through general arts without a science or a maths, it might be a bit difficult.
Difficult to be employed at the air navigation services. Okay, thank you very much. Hello, Jessica. Are we ready?
You're welcome.
Yes, we are ready. We are ready.
This is the Aviation Canteen Show, and today we have air traffic controllers from the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority. Today is International Day of the Air Traffic Controller. Thank you for joining us. Okay, Jessica.
I think you need to enable screen sharing and then I can share the screen. And so between the two of us.
You can share now, please.
So I think we would start along with Zaid and I will do most of it, but Zaid, if you'd like to go ahead, and then I'll come in as we go along.
Okay. Just a moment. Yes, okay. So our presentation today is this is the overview of our presentation. We are looking at the history of the profession ATC. And then since today is the International Day of the Air Traffic Controller, we'll look briefly at it and then what IFATCA is all about. We shall try to look at what the air traffic controller does. That is what I started with. And we'll look at procedures and technology which are used in the provision of air traffic control. And then we'll also look at future technology. So can we go on, please? So this is telling us what air traffic control is about. And I explained earlier, but it's telling us the supervision of movement of all aircraft, both in the air and on the ground, and in the vicinity of the airport. And it's not only between the aircraft, as well, I said earlier on, it's also between aircraft and then vehicles and other personnel as well. We may have operating at what we call the maneuvering area of the airport. That includes the taxiway and then the runway. So if you have somebody who is going to the runway to do some work, the person needs to be controlled by the air traffic controller. If he's also going to work around the taxiway, the air traffic controller would also have to be there. The air traffic controller, I said, would also need to ensure the safe and the expeditious movement of aircraft. So that if an aircraft is flying from, let's say, point A to B, and then let's say the routes we have would have to take him through a longer session, what we would have to do is the air traffic controller would try and then make sure he shortens his routes as to the best and then to the safest means possible. And when you do that, if you save an aircraft, let's say a minute of fuel, for 30 days, you would have saved 30 minutes of fuel, which can even conduct a full leg of a flight, let's say from Accra to Kumasi. That's the basic job of an air traffic controller. When we get to the history, we are now the history. How did the air traffic control profession start? Way back in 1920, around in London, the Croydon Airport, the job of air traffic controller had started. And they had started with this long hat, and then the windows were all glasses. So someone sits in there and tries to help the aircraft come in. And then from 1922, the US, all these things also started. They used their airmail radio service station. And then it was after the World War I, they tried to check on their flights, what they call reconnaissance flights. And from time to time, as the aircraft was also now being seen to be used for other purposeful means, just than for wars, now they realize that the aircraft also needs to be safe in operation. And all these developments had brought about, or has made the profession evolve. Now let's look at IFATCA. IFATCA is simply an abbreviation for the International Federation of Air Traffic Controllers Association. It was formed 20th of October 1961. Ghana is a member of IFATCA. And what IFATCA does is that it's first and foremost, it's a non-political and then a non-profit making organization. And then IFATCA seeks to promote and uphold the high standard of knowledge and professional safety and efficiency amongst its members. It also tries to seek the interest of all controllers worldwide. And IFATCA tries to liaise with other international bodies so that they give controllers hearing at these relevant organizations. And these include ICAO, the European Union, ILO, and other bodies. Ghana, as I said, is a member of IFATCA, and we have a lot of our members representing on some panels in IFATCA. And on 20th October 1961, works had already started, but that was when it was realized that the works that had started in trying to bring Eurocontrol together, the controllers in Europe, the controllers in America, they tried to merge the association and then make it into one. But the most important thing was that they wanted to celebrate the immense role these individuals we call air traffic control play in our daily lives. How they keep the skies safe for us to and from wherever we are going. Jessica, I think we can move on, please. Yes, please. So I told you GATCA has been a member of FATCA since 1973, has been a member and has always been in good standing. And we have contributed our quota to IFATCA. We have members who are on the standing or supporting groups. We have members who are liaison officers as well. Please, you can move on to the next slide. Okay, so we are trying to look at this is the ACCRA flight information region. And it used to encompass part of the airspaces of Togo and then Benin, and it extends into the Atlantic Ocean, way 9 degrees south into the ocean. And then to the north, it's 11 degrees north. That is sharing borders with Niamey to the right, and then Burkina Faso to the left or the west. Yes. And then as you can see on the right side of the screens, these are our charts or airway maps. These are routes aircraft would have to fly when they are in the air. And these routes have come up as a result of conventional navigational aids we had put on the ground, we had fixed on the ground, or what we call fixes. Fixes are basically having to join 2 points. 2 points, like in mathematics, you have X and Y coordinates, you join them, and then you can create points for the aircraft to fly on. So that when an aircraft is at a particular position, the air traffic controller would know exactly where it is. And I will come back to talk about the various division in the provision of this air traffic control service. But now we'll have to look at some of the types of flights and then types of flying we have. In our airspace, we have commercial flights, we have private flights, we have cargo flights, we also have those doing aerial survey, those doing calibration and all that. And then when it comes to the flying, we have people doing what we call instrument flight rules and then visual flight rules. Instrument flight rules are simply those that are not looking outside. They only depend on the instruments on board the aircraft. So the pilot is sitting behind the computer, and that is what he's using to fly. With the visual flight rules, the pilot would have to depend on the weather conditions, and then he would have to be looking out to fly. He would make sure that he is not going into any hill, he's not going into any obstacle, and then he maneuvers himself in the skies and come into land. Whilst the air traffic controller also assists him with other aircraft that are flying, and then provides him with other aspects of the service, which includes flight information service and then alerting service. I will come back to that. Jessica, before you go on to the okay, yes, you can move to the next slide so that I will use that to explain. Yes, these are the phases of flight. We have pre-flight, takeoff, departure, en route, descent, approach, and landing. These phases of flight has helped also in the division of the work of the air traffic controller. So in air traffic control, we have what we call the aerodrome control service, we have approach control service, and then the area control service. Aerodrome control service, let me start with aerodrome control service. Aerodrome control service deals with flights that are, or aircrafts that are on the ground that are operating just within the vicinity of the aerodrome. And every jurisdiction, every position has its own jurisdiction. For the aerodrome, which is otherwise called the tower, sometimes it is broken down into clearance, delivery, ground control, and then tower as well. Sometimes these positions are all merged just into aerodrome or tower control. And this would take care of the pre-flight, the takeoff, and then the departure, the takeoff stage of the flight. So that once an aircraft is about to start, which is the pre-flight, he's done all his checks. Now he wants to start his engines. He starts calling the tower, and then the tower provides him with all the information. Then once he taxis and takes off, but prior to that, he does a coordination with approach, and approach also does a coordination with area. Approach is responsible for the departing and arriving controlled flights. And once the aircraft takes off and then leaves for Accra, the dimension is 1,500 feet and then 15 nautical miles laterally. So once the aircraft takes off, it is handed over to the approach controller, who tries to give the aircraft, separate the aircraft from other aircraft that are operating, and then tries to make sure the aircraft is getting to its climb out phase before handing over to the area control. The approach controller normally has about 60 miles, sometimes 30 miles. The airspace is not big. The chunk of the airspace we saw earlier is controlled by the area control center. He would say that he has ceded some responsibilities to the approach controller and then to the aerodrome controller. So the approach controller takes the aircraft to a certain level, and then before getting to that level, he hands him over to the area controller. The area controller ensures that the aircraft will climb to its level it is requesting, and then it will remain in a cruising level. It's the same way when the aircraft is about to land. Then it will pass through the area control center, and then he descends him to the level the approach controller wants, and then hands him over to the approach controller, who then does his vectoring or provides it with the necessary guidance before handing him over to the aerodrome controller for a safe landing. And the approach controller would also ensure that when you have successive aircraft coming in, he is going to ensure that he sequences them in the right manner so that they come in safely and then orderly. Jessica, yeah. So in the picture we can see air traffic controllers performing their jobs, and some of the tools we use. Primarily, we need to have a radio communication. That's a two-way radio communication. You should be able to talk to the pilot, and then he must also be able to talk to you. And now we have radar, but you can provide the service without radar. And on our extreme right of the screen, we can see green images, and those targets are what are representing aircrafts. And without even seeing the aircrafts on the screen, I earlier on stated that we have positions, we have fixes, or what we call reporting points. The air traffic controller can also assume or picture the positions of these aircrafts just as they are depicted on the radar. He can have a pictorial view in his mind. And this he does without radar. And when air traffic controllers employ this type of service without radar, it is called procedural air traffic control. And then once a radar or a TV screen is added, and on the extreme right top, you can see what a radar head. A radar simply sends signals to the aircraft, and then it receives it back, so it can be depicted on the screen. And once the air traffic controller can see these images, it makes it easier, and then even the spacing or the separation between aircrafts are made much more smaller. Hence, the airspace can accommodate more aircrafts, and then you can reduce their flying time as well. So these are the tools we use, and some of the tools we use are the flight progress strip. The flight progress strip. So these strips you see where you have the hand with a pen. These ones are what represents every aircraft. And then the informations you get from the aircraft are also represented on the strip. And so any information you pass or receive from the aircraft, you indicate it on the flight progress strip. Going forward now, we have what we call electronic flight progress strips. And these, instead of putting or writing with a pen, you use or you pick the aircraft on the screen of your radar. So you can be moving them, and then what you do with the progress flight strips, you now do them electronically. And with that, you can easily make changes and see what the current situation is. So these are the tools. The profession is, or the industry is very dynamic. And the technology, it makes very good use of technology. We saw the radar. Previously, we were using procedural control, which we still employ in case the radar is not working. And again, when aircraft are flying, they have what we call navigational aids as well as landing aids. And some of these aids are, or equipment, I'll use the word equipment for us all to understand, are non-directional beacons. We have viewers, which are very high frequency omnidirectional radio range. Then we have distance measuring equipment. We also have the instrument landing system, which make, and then we have the GLS, which is the G-bus landing system. And then we have the microwave landing system. And then the DME are used to check the positions of the aircraft. The ILS helps the aircraft to come in to land at the correct angle, and then helps it to align with the center line of the runway. Same as the microwave landing system, which is mostly employed by the military. These are some of the technologies that we are employing. Can we please go on to the next slide? Okay, now we are also having what we call the Global Navigational Satellite System. And we are moving away gradually from the conventional system. Now satellites are being employed in air traffic control or in aviation industry, so that instead of fixing equipment on ground, which sometimes you have in encroaches, running into encroaches, going onto where they are installed, sometimes something happens and then these things are destroyed. With satellites, they are making the work much more easier. We are also having what we call the area navigation and then the required navigation performance, so that now aircraft can just, once they are equipped with it on board, aircraft can just fly from one point to another without passing through the traditional routes that are earlier on stated. We are also having what we call the ADS-B and then ADS-C. ADS is just automatic dependent surveillance, and the B is for broadcast, and then the C is for contract. And the ADS-C, what it does is, it's just like the radar, but areas around the ocean where we cannot install the radar head, the ADS-C is able to make us or enable us depict or see the positions of aircraft around those areas. And this is also a step forward. And currently, ACCRA is employing all these technology. Now we have Flight Radar 24, the Open Sky Network Radar Box 24, and then the Flight Away as well. Can we please go to the next? Okay, and then we have what we call the CPDLC. That's the Controller Pilot Data Link Communication. This is, I would say, it's just like a WhatsApp message, or it's just like a WhatsApp. And the controller, wherever he is, once he's CPDLC equipped, he just communicates with the controller by text messaging. So he wants to climb to a certain level, and then he just texts you, and then you receive it on your screen, and then you reply appropriately. So it reduces voice communication. We can move. Okay, so we look at the future technologies. Now we are moving to what we call space-based ADS-B. And currently it is Aeron that has that technology, and then NATS in the UK, they are employing that. We are also moving to an era where we have remote or virtual towers. Unlike where we would have to have someone stationed at a particular airport at a tower, these times technology is being employed where live feeds are received from another airport where there's no controller there, and then a controller at a different station does the controlling. So these are the technology or the future technology the profession is entering into. Other places are employing it already, but in Ghana, we are yet to. And then we have automation such as weather and then flight planning routing. Now, some towers are equipped with surface movement radar, and to help the control tower, instead of visually seeing, once it is Hamatan and then he cannot really see, then he goes, the surface movement radar augments the vision of the air traffic controller. Okay, so yes, I said earlier on that controllers last year has kept over 3.5 billion people safe. And this is what we have been doing over the years, and it requires a lot of patience and skill. Jessica, would you want to add something to the presentation, please?
I think you've covered most of the information, but so basically we start with one technology. Over time, things evolve, but there's still some technology that is quite old that we still use. So for instance, some of the radio equipment we use, the concept of it is almost 100 years old. That is like HF, because the coverage is better over certain areas. So even though there are modern things such as satellites, you still need to use some of the old and some of the new to get everything working properly. And you still need to know about some of the old things, such as working without a radar system, even when you have a radar system, just in case the radar fails. And even in Europe, they've had cases where they've had power problems and radar has failed. So even so basically an advanced country can have a problem. So they also need that knowledge. So even though we are moving forward with interesting technology and we are keeping people safe, we still have to be able to keep people safe without the technology as well. So that's basically what I'd like to add on.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. And before we conclude, I also want us to quickly look at some of the challenges we go through in the provision of our work. And like Jessica talked about the technology, we realize that we still have some equipment that are obsolete, but we are still using them. And this equipment that the air traffic controller uses in its provision of its service, you realize sometimes they are either not reliable or they are unavailable, yet you still would have to provide your service. Sometimes the complexity of the airspace is also an issue. And then, like I said, with the airspace, sometimes you have an airspace, there are parts of the airspace that there's restriction, we call restricted areas. We have places which are danger areas. We have some places that are prohibited. So the aircraft would not have to fly at some places. Some places when you are flying, there are, let's say, missiles being fired and you need to protect them around this site. And when you have weather and all that, it's quite hectic for the air traffic controller. Sometimes you have special operations by the military. And then we also have training issues. You have legislation by the state. You are providing your service, and then some of the consequences from the provision of the service is that you may delay aircraft, which is not intentional, and you may also have fatalities or accidents. And some controllers are jailed for these fatalities. And then with time, you sit down for a long time, there are health concerns that some people have waist issues, some people have problems with their sight because they are always behind the screen. These are some of the challenges, but together, I think we keep doing our work. And basically, that's the introduction to air traffic control. That ends our presentation. Or Jessica, do you have something to conclude, please?
I think we are good. So maybe the questions will bring out some of the things we may have missed.
Okay. Thank you very much for this detailed introduction to air traffic control. We are grateful to have you today. All I know is that air traffic controllers, they are like the police of the skies. Without them, the aircraft cannot land. Without them, the aircraft cannot take off. And even when the aircraft is in the air, you need to keep constant communication with the pilot. Today, you've made us aware that air traffic controllers in Ghana are part of an association, of a bigger body. You guys are doing so well. You are keeping our skies safe, and we are so grateful to have had you. Now we have some questions in our Q&A box. So I'm going to take them and then you can answer them. First, we have from Ebenezer Injoku. He's saying, is there a need for more investment in air traffic control? Seeing how crucial it is and the rate of accidents in this part of the world relative to others. Is there a need for more investment in air traffic control? Seeing how crucial it is and the rates of accidents in this part of the world relative to others. So,
Jessica will take that question.
Okay, Jessie.
Yes, so the air traffic control is always evolving. One thing I'd say is when it comes to aviation, there are very few accidents. It's a fairly safe industry. If you compare it to roads, the safety record of aviation is quite high because everything you do, there are always safety measures and things to make sure that an accident does not happen. So in the case where an accident happens, it means something must have really gone wrong. In our part of the world, the reason why there may be some incidents may be because the aircraft may be older, because maybe the airline that is operating can afford a cheaper aircraft which may be older. But in general, aviation is fairly safe. when it comes to infrastructure, it's always good to invest because technology changes and things change, and the more you have, the better it will be to handle aircraft. So definitely you have to invest more as you go along.
Okay, so there is a need for more investment in the air traffic control department. Thank you,
Exactly.
Jessica. I have from Ebenezer again. Okay, so I think it was a continuation to the first question, because it said, especially with the projected rise in air travel post-pandemic and the impending AFCFTA. From Frederick, he said there is a training school for air traffic controllers here in Ghana. He also said they travel outside to train. I don't understand why they travel out when they have a school here. Zaid, Frederick does not understand why you have to travel outside of the country when there is a school in Ghana.
Can I answer that question?
Yes, you can.
So it's the same way that there are lots of schools in Ghana, yet people send their children abroad for school. So that's the simple answer to that one.
Oh, really?
Simple answer.
Why
It depends on what you need at that particular point in time, what you expect to gain at that particular point in time, who is available for the teaching at that time, and whether your technology is what you need at that time. So the same way, if you're in Ghana, there are a lot of schools, a lot of good schools, but you may still decide that you want to send your child abroad. So it's the simple, it's nothing complicated. It's just simple like that.
Okay, so it's dependent on what you are looking for at a particular time.
Exactly.
All right, so I would say that maybe the type of training that you need, in simple terms, you need at that time, it's not being done at that time, right?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I was just adding that, you see, we still have a training school. Once you come back from the training, wherever, you still do what we call a local procedure. Sometimes we have refresher training because we need to up our proficiency levels.
Okay.
And then maybe new procedures are designed. We need to go to the training school to practice them. So we still have a training school, but like Jessica said, as and when the need arises, then you take which school you would have to take. So that's just to add to what Jessica said.
Hello?
Yes. So that's what I would add to it.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that. Okay, do we? Wow, I think our questions are gone. Oh, come. I think we've lost our attendees. Okay, they're still here.
No, they're here.
Okay, but I seem to have lost the Q&A session and then the chat. Zaid, can you read the chat questions in the chat box for us?
Okay, let me just do that. Okay, especially the project screen. So okay, I've seen. I also cannot see. Okay.
Okay, so
yeah, somebody's asking if the slides would be made available to us. Okay, Jessica, that's for you.
I will have to check with the host what she normally does, and then we'll know that the answer to that.
Sure.
Okay, no problem.
Do I still go on with the questions?
Yes, please.
Okay, Gifty Nunana Dogbe also is asking, what phase of flight is the most challenging to handle as an ATC? Is it during area control, approach, or airdrome control? Likewise, which is the least stressful phase of flight control? Jessica, that's for you too.
So the least stressful would be the area control, because normally the aircraft are cruising level, and so they don't request for too much. at that particular time. Then I'd say challenging to handle it depends. It can be aerodrome or it can be approach. It usually depends on how many aircraft are moving at the same time. And so if you have more aircraft moving, it means you have to put them in a different, you may have to move them around to get them in a nice order to come in nicely or to go out nicely. So depending on the number of aircraft you have, it can be your aerodrome or your approach for the challenging part of the phase.
Okay.
So basically, anytime, any stage of it could be.
Okay. All right, we have another. Hello, good morning. May I ask, how can one become an air traffic controller by way of qualifications? And then his second question is, can an air traffic controller pilot an aircraft? This is from Ago Abdul Rahman. How
Jessica,
can
you take the question, please.
Okay.
So I think earlier on, Zaid mentioned that you'd have to go through first of all, you'd have to qualify, which would be depending on what qualifications they put out there, whether you'd have a degree or a science background. So you'd have to apply. If you make the short list, you go through aptitude tests. If you pass the aptitude tests and you get employed, you still have to do a medical test. If you pass the medical test, then you'd eventually have to go through an ab initio course, which you have to pass. If you don't pass that one, then you won't be able to even stay on and do more training to become an air traffic controller. Was that another part of the question? I mean, I can't see that one, so.
Yes, okay. So
yes, I've seen it. Okay, I've seen that one. Okay, so can a controller pilot an aircraft? Every person who's supposed to fly an aircraft has to be a pilot. So the only way a controller can pilot an aircraft is they've trained to be a pilot at some point in time.
Okay. So in simple terms, an air traffic controller cannot pilot a plane unless he goes for a pilot training. Thank you, Jessica. We have, please, are there restrictions on age or physical conditions for air traffic controllers?
Yes, there is.
There is?
Jessica, please answer that for you.
There's a restriction on age because there's a lot to learn and it's easier when you're younger to start the whole process. In some countries, the retiring age is even up to 50 because the job can be stressful. And so by 50, you're already so stressed out that you need to retire early. In Ghana, we do the usual standard age of 60 for retirement. But then when it comes to employment, it's usually about 25. I think there was one that was 30, but there is usually a restriction on the age when you're being recruited.
Meaning that you have to be around 25 years old before you can be employed?
It depends on what restriction is given at that particular time.
But for Ghana, what is the age restriction? When can you start your air traffic control?
When you can start is when you have, for now, the last few ones, you have to have a degree. So if you finish your degree at 22 and you qualify, you can apply. The last one, I think the age was capped at about 30, but the 30, you had to have an extra qualification such as a pilot license also, or some pilot training. So depending on what conditions they are looking for at that particular point in time, the age limit can be 25, or depending on the extra qualification you have, it could be 30.
Oh, okay. So it's dependent on the situation at hand.
Yes.
Okay, I can also come in quickly, please.
Okay, Zaid.
I think the regulation allows for, I think at 21, that's when you can hold a license. And like Jessica indicated, so if you are less than that, you cannot hold a license. But once you start and 60, you retire. That is the addition I would give. Could you say that again, please?
age 21
Yes.
hold an air traffic controller license?
Yes, that is the age at which the regulation states you can hold an air traffic controller license.
Okay, are there any other questions from anonymous attendees saying what's the relationship between the ATCs and aerodrome firefighters?
You're a bit inaudible, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, please.
All right. What is the relationship between the ATCs and aerodrome firefighters?
That still goes to Jessica.
I'm not exactly sure who the aerodrome firefighters are, and I'm not sure I really understand the question.
Okay.
There's a firefighting rescue service at the airport that is supposed to operate in an emergency and be around when fuel pumping is being done. So normally, if the pilot requests for a fire assistance, they will the air traffic controller will call them to be near the aircraft, or if there's an emergency, they'll communicate with them so that if they have to be on standby in case they need to put out a fire or something of a sort. So I think that's yeah.
Okay, so there is a communication between these two departments.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, just let me add a little to that, please.
Okay, Zaid, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Like you see, the air traffic control profession, I indicated earlier on that we provide what we call the alerting service. An alerting service is to assist aircraft in need of search and rescue aid. So if an aircraft is in distress, and it's within the aerodrome or the airport, then we liaise with the rescue firefighting service, giving them all those necessary information for them to also help assist such aircraft that are in distress.
So can we say that you are the middleman?
Exactly. Air traffic control is the middleman.
All right. Thank you for that answer. If there should be aerial surveillance over an area using fixed winged drones, what will be the restricted altitudes of flight? If there should be aerial surveillance over an area using fixed winged drones, what will be the restricted altitudes of flight?
Still to Jessica.
Okay, so when it comes to drones, most of those regulations come from safety regulation. And before you do any of these things, you'd have to write and apply and make your request. So that will be subject to your conditions, that whatever you give to safety as your plan of what you want to do and the level you want, they will tell you whether they will allow you to do that or not. So I cannot say for sure that you have a certain level you can fly to. You'd have to put in your application first. And when it's approved, then they will grant you your level and to be passed on to us.
Okay, so that is a different department would have to handle that.
Handle the initial thing, and then we will take over from there.
We will take over, okay, and complete it. Right. From Gifty Nunana Dogbe, hello, Mr. Zaid and Mrs. Jessica. Have there been any aviation perks you've enjoyed as a result of your role as ATCs? Zaid and Jessica.
Yeah. Jessica is answering this.
I don't know about you, but I don't really recall anything. So it's no, not really.
Not really. Okay.
Really.
No perks at all.
It's the pilots that get all the attention. We are in the back. We are in the back.
Oh, Jessica, because I know that aside from the pilots, the ATCs enjoy a lot in terms of your salary, in terms of remunerations.
She's talking about about the perks, and those come with, oh yeah, pilots, oh here, sit here. When you say an air traffic controller, nobody really knows. That's why I'm saying that when it comes to perks, when you say air controller, half the people don't really know, and so you don't really get that kind of maybe, oh, let's move you up to business class. Let's say you're going on a flight or
Okay.
something like that. So that's
So
how I'm
it
understanding
means that people don't know what entails your job.
Exactly.
Or they don't understand who an air traffic controller is.
Yes.
They don't even know you exist, right?
So we are in the back. We are working.
Then now you need to make a lot of noise to come forward, because you police the pilots. Without you, the pilots can't even fly the plane.
Yeah.
Okay. Caleb, I've heard air traffic control trainees must sign a training bond agreement. How true is this, and what does it mean, please? Zaid and Jessica?
Jessica would answer.
I'm not aware of a training bond agreement. So, are you, Zaid? Are you? Oh.
No, there's nothing like that.
There's
No.
nothing that we are aware of. So.
Oh, there's nothing like that in Ghana.
No, there's nothing like that in Ghana.
Okay. Caleb, I hope your question has been answered. Frederick Sean, do you give priority to aircraft requesting for takeoff? Say a military presidential aircraft and a commercial airline. Who goes first? Is it first come, first serve?
So usually it is first come, first serve. And if it is a presidential flight, usually we'd try and give them priority. What also happens is there's something called a flight plan, where every flight, before they go anywhere, they say where they are going and what time they are going. So this is one of the ways we know who is going somewhere and at what time. So even with, let's say, a presidential flight or so, we'll be aware that they were going somewhere. So when you have all of this information, it helps you to be able to sequence them in the right order. But apart from that, it is normally first come, first serve, but sometimes it depends on some other features that may come up. Say one aircraft is bigger, one is smaller. We use a lot of things to determine who may have to go first, depending on the situation. But on a basic note, it's just first come, first serve.
Okay.
And like, can I add something to what she's just said?
Yes, please.
Yes. So first come, first serve, and then, like she said, presidential. If it is also maybe a medical flight, we give them those priority. If it's a flight that is also going to assist another aircraft that is also in emergency, then you would have to give them priority.
Okay, so you have cases where you give priority.
Exactly.
Examples are the emergency flights.
The emergency, the presidential flight, the flights that are there's medical flights. Those ones have priority than the general flights.
Okay.
And everybody knows that.
Everybody knows that. Do you have, what's it called? Do you have missiles and military aircraft appearing on your radars?
It's if there are missiles and military aircraft, yes, they will appear on the radar.
Okay. Do you always use a plane to travel to countries or cities? Is a plane the best way to travel to cities and countries? Yes, definitely. If you are going to a far off country, you need to use a plane. It takes you there faster, right? Yeah, faster and safer. So a plane can do a lot of things.
It's the safest means of transportation.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're done with the questions. Please, if you are in the audience and you want to contribute or ask a question, kindly raise your hand and then you'll be permitted to speak. If you are in the audience and you want to comment or ask a question, kindly raise your hand and you'll be permitted to speak. This is the Aviation Canteen Show, the birthday edition. I am glad that I celebrate my birthday with the International Day of the Air Traffic Controller. And I'm privileged to have Zaid, Jessica, and all our guests on this platform today. I know by the time we are done with this session, everyone on this platform and the whole world would really understand the importance of the air traffic control job. You need to understand that there are a lot of opportunities in the aviation industry. It's not just a pilot and a cabin crew. And today, we are being made aware of one of the opportunities, and that is the air traffic control job. It is a job that pays well. Yes, very well. Aside from you being a pilot, I think the second job that pays well is an air traffic control, because they are an important facet of the aviation chain. Without them, we can't have planes taking off. Without them, we can't have planes landing. Without them, we can't have planes even in the air. They are the eyes of the pilots. I have Felix Waja here. Hello, Felix.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Felix. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask if how do the ATCs cope with when they don't understand accent of pilots? Maybe you have this Arab pilot or a Nigerian pilot who speaks with some different accent and they can't really hear them, especially the Ghanaian ATC. How do you cope with those pilots?
Thank you very much, Felix. Zaid, Jessica, who would like to pick this?
Jessica will do.
So what happens is we have standard phrases that we use because there are different people who speak different languages in different countries. English is the aviation language. So in aviation, English is used as the primary means of communication. And in air traffic control, it is the primary means of communication. So when you are in any country, let's say you are in maybe France, in smaller airports, they may use French, but everybody speaks English as well. So no matter where you are in the world, you still use English for communication. So for instance, if a pilot wants to request for a startup clearance, you say request startup. He will not say, I would like to request to start my engines at this time and say a very long sentence. So we use basic words and basic phrases. So request startup, request taxi, request clearance, request takeoff. So things like that will just give you an easy way to communicate with people who don't have English as a primary language. So there's a whole list of phraseologies that we use, and normally pilots and controllers have access to that. And then that's what we use for communication. So then it's easier to understand each other.
So you use simple languages in communication. Thank you, Jessica. We have Anko Godson. Hello, Mr. Anko.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon all.
Good afternoon.
I want to commend our speakers for that detailed presentation and education given to us today. Very grateful. My question is in threefold. It has to do with diversion of flights. One, I want to find out what accounts for delay in landing. Sometimes you see the aircraft suspended and cannot be allowed to land. What accounts for that? Two, how long can an aircraft remain airborne when it's not allowed to land? And three, when the aircraft has to go and do emergency landing at a nearby airport, which is not scheduled, how does passengers get to their ultimate destination, who foot the bill? Is it the passengers or the airline, or what happened? How do they get back to their ultimate destination? These are my few questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Zaid, Jessica, who wants to take this?
Okay, so I mentioned earlier that every flight has something they call a flight plan, which says where you are going, what time you are going, where you are leaving from. It also tells you the time you will take to get to your destination. So they have all this information where they have an idea of how long it will take to go anywhere. So the pilot has enough fuel to get to their destination, and extra in case when they get to their destination, they may have to hold because maybe there's rain, or they may have to go to an alternative destination. So with the alternative destination, they would usually have enough fuel to get there. So if there's a delay, for instance, because of weather, and the pilot has to hold for a minute or two in the air, sorry, for at least 30 minutes or more, maybe in the air, and they realize they had only 1 hour of fuel and their alternative destination is 20 minutes away, they will plan so that they have enough fuel to go to the alternative destination, which is 20 minutes away. So they'll have enough fuel to land at the alternative place and then get more fuel and then come back. Normally, the airlines plan all of this before the aircraft takes off, and then they are usually responsible for getting you to your next destination. In rare cases, there may be some situations where the airline may say it is not their fault, and so they cannot move you to your destination. But usually, those are supposed to come from the airline, and they will handle most of that for you.
Okay, so the third question, the airlines handle that part. Thank you, Jessica.
Great.
We have from the blood of Jesus. Wow. Hello? Hello? The blood of Jesus, please, you have been unmuted.
Hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I'm grateful for giving me the opportunity to contribute. I'm also an air traffic controller, a colleague to Jessica.
Okay.
I've been listening to the submission, and I wanted to make a contribution concerning a question someone asked about signing a bond when going for training. Basically, we have two types of air traffic control in Ghana. We have civil air traffic control and military air traffic control. None of them signs bond when going on a training. But recently, just about 2 years ago, the military decided to allow personnel going on air traffic control to sign a bond of 5 years to indicate that after they have been trained, they will have to stay in the service to practice for some minimum number of years before they can decide to leave the service, just because maybe they want to make maximum use of their resources. I mean, the money spent on personnel in training. So that's the only bond one is allowed to sign in Ghana when being an air traffic controller. It's only with the military.
Okay, so only with the military. But when it comes to the commercial side of things, they don't sign bonds. Okay.
Not at all.
All
Yes,
right. Thank you very much. So let's go back to the chat. We have Galaxy A50. Give me shout out. Galaxy A50. Then we are giving you a shout out.
Yeah. Hi to Victor.
Okay. And then from Abdurrahman, at what point in the skies does the air traffic controller hand over to the next controller? If, for instance, the aircraft is traveling from Accra to Kumasi or Accra to Nigeria and so on, at what point?
So every area has agreed boundaries. So between Accra and Kumasi, there's an agreed boundary. between Accra and Lomé, there's an agreed boundary. It may not be the boundary on the map, but every area, they have the agreements between the next area of control. And the areas of control have agreements. So let's say Accra and Kumasi, they all have agreements that when the person is at this level or the person is in this area, I'll hand over to you, or under whatever conditions, they'll hand over one way or the other way. So the all of the borders, they have agreements, and then they hand over at that particular point.
Okay. So you don't go into somebody else's barrier.
Well, the reason why I'm saying they have agreements is because occasionally they may allow you to cross over one way or the other way. So it depends on the agreement. And besides, they communicate with each other as well. But normally there's a set agreement of a boundary where you hand over one or receive from the other side.
Okay, thank you. Caleb, I think your question has been answered with regards to the air traffic control training, signing the training bond agreement. So apparently it's just for the military side. From Caleb as well, what kind of medical conditions are likely to affect my chances of obtaining the required medical standard to work as an air traffic controller? Any medical conditions that can affect someone's chances of obtaining the required medical standard to work as an air traffic controller?
Unfortunately, I don't have the exact details of those, so I don't know. Zaid, do you have the?
Well, basically, you must have good hearing. You must have good hearing. You must have good eyesight. Yes, and then you must be of
sound mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you.
The rest is with
the A50, happy birthday. Thank you very much. From Joyce, well done, Jessica and Zaid. And from Caleb again, please, is the ATC in charge of both fixed wing and rotor aircrafts? Is the ATC in charge of both fixed wing and rotor aircrafts? Zaid?
Jessica. Oh, it's for Jessica.
Jessica, okay. Hello,
I can't see, can you go over the question again? Okay, I've seen it. Once it's an aircraft, we communicate with them. Once it's an aircraft and it's in our airspace, we are in charge of their movement so that they don't run into each other or into any other aircraft. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. From Alexander Green, do you take interns? Do you take interns? No?
Not really.
Okay.
The exceptional case.
In special cases, okay. Then are radar controllers different qualifications to tower controllers? And what are working times, rates they get? So differences between radar controllers and tower controllers, are they different?
Yes, yeah, different. And the person behind the radar screen is controlling aircraft on a screen. I think in the presentation we showed how the radar picks objects and it's translated onto a screen. And with the radar, the controller who is behind the radar screen does control and separation and sequencing using the radar. Normally, the person who's in the tower uses visual reference. They have to usually see the aircraft or have an idea of where each aircraft is in their mind, or using a flight progress strip board. So normally that would be the basic difference. But you can have cases where the person in the tower is qualified to use radar, or the person using the radar is qualified to use tower.
Okay.
to be in the tower.
To be in the tower. Okay. Why do ATCs sometimes change the approach plan filed by the pilots? Why do ATCs sometimes change the approach plan filed by the pilots?
I'd say pilots don't usually have an approach plan. Usually the air traffic controller takes care of that. And so depending on the number of aircraft that are there at the time, depending on the size and the speed of the other aircraft that may be within the vicinity at the time who are coming in or going out, that will determine how the pilot comes in or is sequenced in, whether they'll be first or second, or whether they'll change them from being first to second, depending on other aircraft in the vicinity at that particular point in time.
Okay.
I can also add something briefly, please. And there are different types of approaches that aircrafts or pilots execute. And let's say with the number of aircraft coming in at a time, if a pilot wants to execute a certain type of approach, and all these types of approaches, sometimes they have their time lapses. So if you realize that he's going to execute a particular type of approach, which would, which would have an effect on your planning or the sequencing of your aircraft, obviously you would want him to come in early because you need time to bring in other aircraft. So those are the reasons why sometimes the approach controller would change the type of approach a pilot would want to execute.
Thank you very much, Zaid. From Anita J. Imashi, congratulations to Zaid and Jessica for a brilliant presentation and well-answered questions. God bless the noble profession. More grace, more power to all. Thank you very much, Anita, for your contribution as well. Zaid, Jessica, kindly be preparing your concluding remarks. I'll go back to the audience for just 2 contributions or questions, and then I come back to you. Please, our audience, anyone with a question or contribution? Okay, Frederick is shown. Hello, Frederick.
Hello.
Hello, Frederick.
I have a question in mind, and thanks for this presentation. Let's say let's say Heathrow Airport, and we have, say, 4 British Airways aircraft coming. So how do you differentiate each of them, since they are same airlines, let's say same brand? How do you differentiate them land? Yeah, that's my question. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so every aircraft, first of all, has a registration. And when an aircraft is operating a flight, it also has a flight number. And this information is fed into the radar system as well. So in your system and on your flight progress strip, you have all the information of the aircraft, where you expect them to be at a particular point in time or that particular point in time. So with their particular location, with their aircraft flight number, which we call the flight number a call sign. And so they will mention their flight number before they speak. And when you want to speak to them, you mention their flight number. So that determines who they are and where you tell them to go. And each thing you say to them, they respond to acknowledge they have heard you. So actually they read back what you say to them. So everyone has their call sign, and then you read an instruction to them, they read it back to you. Either you see where they are on the radar screen because you have their information in your system, or if you're not using a radar, they have told you where they are, or you can actually see where they are. So that is a way of differentiating the different aircrafts that can be the same type within the same area, but you know exactly where each of them is. if they are parked at a certain place, they'll tell you, I am parked at this particular stand. Each stand has a number, so you know where they are. So that's how we are able to determine who is who, even though they may be the same aircraft.
Okay, thank you, Jessica. From Eben Edu, where is the training school? The training school is located at the Kotoka International Airport, around the cargo door area. It is called Ghana Civil Aviation Training Academy. So you can Google it after this webinar. Take the contact, call, and then find out what you need to be able to go to the training school. From Andrew, he says, please, what kind of aircraft lands in Accra? Are there specific aircraft or they are general? What's the interval timing for aircraft landing and aircraft taking off daily? So his question is in two folds. With regards to what type of aircraft lands in Accra, and then the aircraft landing and aircraft taking off timing. Hello, Zaid.
Jessica would answer.
Jessica.
So for now, I believe we can take almost when it comes to passenger aircraft, I believe we can take all of those. And can you go over the question? I need the rest of the question. I think I've missed part of it. So when it comes to passenger aircraft, you can take all of the passenger aircraft. And I think there was another part of the question, that's why.
I want to know the timing for aircrafts landing and taking off, if you have timings. So for instance, maybe you have about 5 aircraft in the air. What is the duration? How do they land? One lands after 5 minutes, the other lands, or so the timing interval between when aircraft lands and then takes off.
This is slightly complex because it depends on the size of the aircraft ahead, the size of the aircraft behind.
Okay.
And if they are the same size, there'll be a standard time frame. And also, so it depends. It ranges from 3 to I think about 8 minutes. And it also depends on what happens after the aircraft lands on the ground, whether they are able to get off the runway fast enough for the other one behind to come and join. So sometimes things are standard, but they get slightly complex because one thing can change, one variable can change, and then everything has to change. So usually I'd give a range of between 3 to 8 minutes of aircraft that are all lined up in a straight line. In some countries, if it's the same type of aircraft that they are all coming in, they can land 1 minute apart or take off 1 minute apart. So it depends on, yeah.
So it's dependent on the size of the aircraft. All right, thank you very much, our audience, for your questions and contributions. Now to Zaid, kindly give us your concluding remarks for today's presentation.
Well, first, I'll say thank you for your time hosting us, and then happy birthday to you. Thank you. Happy birthday to IFATCA and all controllers. What I would just say is that you realize that we are a salient yet an unnoticed agent in the aviation industry.
Yeah.
And we are very eclectic. We are open to anything. Why do I say that? Amidst all this technology advancement that we mentioned, the air traffic controller remains the only flexible person because he is able to adapt to all the changes that come up and then yet maintains or provides his service well, and we'll keep on providing the service to the best of our abilities. I want to seize the opportunity to say happy Controllers Day to all air traffic controllers, particularly to those on shift Alpha, Victor Che, our team leader, Derek Latte. Jessica is also one of our team members. We have Deborah and the rest, and to all air traffic controllers and to our acting director and the ATC fraternity worldwide.
Thank you very much. I am sure that from today, after this wonderful webinar, you will be known. People will understand what air traffic controlling means. And a lot of people will be happy to join the profession. Hello, Jessica.
Yes, hello. So I'd like to also thank you very much for the opportunity to collaborate on this. And a very, very big happy birthday to you. And it's nice that we share the same birthday. So and thank you for all of those who have joined us today and your questions. We hope we're able to get some of your answers to you. And as Zaid has done, I have to also give shout outs to all the people on my shift and my boss, Derek, and my bigger bosses, our directors and our chiefs of staff. And so thank you all. And I think maybe we can do another thing another time. It's been very interesting and insightful. Thank you.
Sure, we can do another thing anytime you want. We are grateful that you were able to make the show today. And as I said, it's a birthday edition. So, hey, happy birthday to myself and to the IFATCA community. God bless you guys. You are doing wonderful. You're keeping our skies safe. When I sit in an aircraft, I feel safe because I know we have eyes on ground. This shouldn't be the last that we engage. GH-Aviation is always available to promote and project any career in the aviation industry. So Jessica, Zaid, and to all the fraternity, get in touch. Let us know you. Let us make you known to the general public. We need to promote every opportunity that we have in the aviation industry. The industry needs to grow. For now, the industry is a bit small, but when a lot of people come into the industry, it will grow, it will expand. And for it to do that, we need to train. We need to make every opportunity in the industry. It has to be out there. So I am ready to market you guys. I'm ready to promote you. Let me have your profiles. Let me have any story you deem fit that you want the public to have, and it will be published on our site. Thank you very much to our guests. Thank you for making it today. Oh, wow. International Day of the Air Traffic Controller. Happy birthday to us all. And anyone in the audience who has a good voice and can sing happy birthday to us, kindly raise your hand and then I'll call you so that you can sing the happy birthday. All right, so I have Andrew. Hello, Andrew. I hope your voice is good.
Hello.
Yes, I have Nuna as well.
Can you hear me?
Yes, so we are listening to you.
Ready? Go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Hip, 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 hip. Hooray! In fact, you deserve a 1,000-gun salute. I'm going to look for the military.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. And we hope to see you another time. This is the Aviation Canteen Show powered by GH-Aviation. We are live on YouTube as of now. If you want to go back to the conversation, you can look for us, GH-Aviation on YouTube, and everything that was discussed here today will be made available to you. If you want updates from the industry, aviation and tourism, you can go to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube for everything aviation and more. GH-Aviation is the authentic mouthpiece for aviation in Ghana. You can also subscribe to our newsletter at www.gh-aviation.com. And you get updates on everything aviation and tourism every day. Today, we have engaged our air traffic controllers. If you are in the aviation and tourism industry and you want us to project and promote you, your product, yourself, or any other thing that is within the industry, kindly get in touch by sending us an email to info@gh-aviation.com, or you can get in touch via mobile 0209116611. And we are available to make you known. We are available to project. I am so passionate about the aviation and tourism industry, so I always want to give my all to bring every facet out. Thanks, Zaid. Thank you, Jessica. And I hope to see you another time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Auntie Precious.
Bye.
Thank you for joining our session today. And thank you to Mr. Anko. Anko has a school in Takrade. He teaches aviation and tourism courses. So anyone here who is in Takrade who wants to go to an aviation school, you can get in touch with Anko at Anko Aviation. There are a lot of aviation and schools in Ghana, in all the regions in Ghana. Get in touch and we'll get you. Thank you. And Mr. Anko, do you have any comments or contribution? Hello, Anko.
I'm here.
Any comments?
Yeah.
Contributions? Or how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, that's impressive.
Okay.
Yeah, we are in Takrady, and so we want to offer programs in IATA courses, travel and tourism, customer service, passenger ground service. They can contact us to assist them. Our numbers are 0244 886929, and they can be assured that the best of situation is provided, and they require international certification for IATA to work in the aviation sector. So we are expecting the public.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and see you. So bye-bye.
Bye. Enjoy your day. Hey.
Bye.
From a camera, family camera, and I'm in Samola. From a camera, and I'm in Samola.
I want to see you shake it for daddy. Sing for you like
Can you hear the
This is a good one. It's a very, very good one.
Can you hear the music? Oh, okay, you can hear. Okay.
It's a good one.
Hey, Madam Lizzie, we want to dance for you. Give us camera, please.
Camera. Hey. Okay.
Turn on my video. Let me dance for you.
Okay, your video is on. So, Jessica, if you can stop screen sharing.
Aha.
Okay.
Oh, play the music.
The music is coming. Wait. Okay. This one is enjoyment.
Hey.